Welcome to Game Changers, the future of play, where we explore AI, gaming, and the business of play. I'm Sarah Ramoz here with the podcast team, Toni Callahan and Stephany Ventura. Today, we are joined by Dr. Jody LeVos, Chief Learning Officer at Begin. Jody holds a PhD in developmental science and has dedicated her career to translating research on how children learn into engaging products used by millions of families around the world. At Begin, she leads the learning science behind trusted educational platforms, including Homer, CodeSpark, Little Passports, and Learn with Sesame Street, ensuring every experience is grounded in research while fostering curiosity, creativity, and healthy child development through play. Before Begin, she spent more than a decade at Leapfrog, helping shape educational products that blended developmental science with innovative technology. Today, she continues to explore how emerging technologies, including AI, can enrich learning experiences while keeping children's developmental needs at the center. As AI becomes increasingly a common part of childhood and digital play continues to evolve, Jody brings a thoughtful and balanced perspective on how we can design technology that not only empowers children, but also supports families, inspires a lifelong love of learning, and so much more. Jody, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we've been really looking forward to this. Want to hear all about your career and what you're doing now, these exciting new things that are coming up. But let's start from the beginning. You spent your career at the intersection of child development, education, and technology. What first inspired you to pursue this path? I'm really interested.
To be honest, I didn't even know that this was a career path, that this career path actually existed. So I was on a very traditional path at first, which was, get my PhD and then do a postdoc and continue to publish papers and then eventually become a professor. And it wasn't until somebody from my research lab had left and gone into industry, she actually went to Leapfrog, that it really opened up my eyes to the fact that there are so many other things that somebody in my space can do. And I know that's changed now. I think there's a lot more opportunity for mentorship programs and for graduates and postdocs to see a plethora of jobs out there. But at the time, that wasn't my experience. And so I invited her out for coffee. She described the role that she played at Leapfrog in terms of translating child development into the actual products. And I remember sort of my jaw hitting the floor and telling her that I think she had described my dream job that I didn't even know existed. And so the short story is that I was at Human Connection. Not long after that conversation, she decided to go back into industry and back into academia and asked if I'd be interested in interviewing for her role. And I immediately responded yes. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Do you think that you would ever go back to academia, or are you just, this is where you belong kind of thing?
No, I continue to dabble a little bit on the side, obviously staying current in research. I have contributed to other, papers as a co-author, but I can't imagine fully going back into academia. I have found my home and I'm so grateful to be here.
Beautiful. So during your career, you helped ensure products are grounded in learning science. How did you balance creating experiences that are educational, but still making sure that they're fun for children?
Yeah, that question really gets to the heart of the inherent challenge of my role as Chief Learning Officer. I think my team and I have on occasion been viewed as the fun police or the scope creep team because of our focus on really building those learning experiences into the play. Without learning designers, I think the default assumption is that kids can play for a while and then stop and then sort of get through the learning or answer some questions and then go back into the play. So the learning is almost like a gatekeeper to the fun. And to me, that is the cheapest, least inspiring, not to mention the least effective way to build learning products. And so in that example, the learning outcomes are completely divorced from the context. They are not, they're not related to the point of the game. And so optimal learning experiences, as we know from the science, is that learning best occurs when it is intimately weaved into the context and it's a part of the game. And so, I fundamentally believe that especially for young children, learning is fun, and that children learn best when they're engaged and when they're having fun. And so, for young children, all play is an opportunity to learn, and all learning experiences should truly be playful. And so we can design the best curriculum in the world, but if kids aren't enjoying the experience, if they don't want to do it, we've completely lost the plot. So all of that is to say, ensuring that products are both educational and fun are actually two sides of the same coin. So the learning design is inclusive of the skills that kids need to learn, the best ways in which to do that, and then to weave that into the play patterns or the game mechanics of the experiences themselves. And so my job has always been to translate not just what kids need to learn, but how they best learn those skills, and then to marry those authentically into the toys or games or children's media that we're developing. And then in addition to that, to just oversee all of the research, both formative and summative, to make sure that we're doing exactly that.
Yeah, I love that. So kids get to the point where they don't even realize that they're learning. They're just having fun. They're just playing, right?
They're just playing, and sometimes they realize they're learning. And again, for young kids, that's okay. I mean, they want to learn. If you've ever seen, a young child recognize the first letter of their name out in the world and the way their face lights up, like that is fun for them. And so, again, it's all about making that a seamless experience.
Yeah, that's great. And that kind of is a nice segue into kind of our core insights section, where I want to really dig into the technology and what's happening in the gaming industry and with childhood development. So the definition of play has evolved dramatically over the last decade. How do you define healthy play today, especially when so much of it includes digital experiences?
Yeah, one fun fact is there's actually not a singular definition of play. So it's one of those things that we feel like we know it when we see it. But instead, there are features of play and there's specific types of play, all of which have nuanced meaning. So healthy play has the following characteristics, according to Dr. Stuart Brown. For one, it's usually done for its own sake. So play doesn't appear as though it's essential for survival, like eating and sleeping are. And yet we know that through play, we as a species, all species, are developing, like, it has an evolutionary advantage, but it is done for its own sake. It's also voluntary. Kids don't usually need to be told that they have to go play. It's something that they want to do on their own. It's inherently attractive. It's fun. When we're playing, we also often experience a freedom from time, as psychologists call this a state of flow. We also experience a diminished sense of self. So we're less sort of conscious of what we look like. We're less concerned about that. And sometimes we even take on new personas or new selves. And it's a place where we can try, we can change the rules, we can fail safely. So those are some of the characteristics of healthy play. And within that, there's different types of play. So there's free play, there's guided play, there's rough and tumble play. And guided play, as described by Kathy Hirsch-Pasek, is really a type of play in which a child directs the experience, but there's an intentionality, there's a role for the grown-up. Either the grown-up sort of sets up the experience or is alongside the experience, guiding the play in order to achieve a certain learning outcome. So I'll give you an example of like an analog experience of guided play. A early childhood educator or a parent might give the child a muffin tin and a spoon and a handful of different colored cotton balls, and invite the child to sort the cotton balls by color into the muffin spots. So the child is having fun, she's scooping up the cotton balls, but while the child is playing, the grown-up in that experience is saying something like, "That one is blue. Can you find another blue cotton ball? Let's count how many cotton balls. 1, 2, 3. 3 blue cotton balls." And so in that example, the child is having fun. She is scooping up the cotton balls. She's having a great time. But the grown-up in that experience is reinforcing multiple skills. They're naming the colors. They're supporting the child's sorting and classifying skills. And they're also demonstrating a key aspect of object counting, including cardinality. So that type of play can be supported really, really well through digital experiences. So as such, play can definitely occur with screens as well as off of screens. But we know from a lot of research that just like a healthy diet should include a range of different types of food, different colors of food, play should also be varied, and we shouldn't overdo it in one type of play, such as digital play. So healthy play today should include generous doses of time away from screens and overly engineered toys. It should include deliberate time for free play, time outside, bouts of boredom. We know that boredom is actually really, really important for kids to experience, as well as time away from structured events or sports. So just because your child is playing a sport does not actually mean you're getting enough playtime.
That's very interesting. And that's another good kind of segue into the next question. So we're talking about guided play with screens, right? And what's healthy and what's not. But parents often worry that screen time comes at the expense of learning. And I read that in your article about how actual play has declined because of screen time, right? Because kids are more on their iPads, on phones and devices, but screen time can also be playful, like you mentioned. What separates the high quality digital play from experiences that just entertain, like you pass your child an iPad and they're just zoned out? What's the difference there?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, there is strong evidence that some skills really can be learned through digital games. So not all screen time is at the expense of learning. There's great examples of games that support skill development or, for example, early literacy skills. Homer by Begin is one of those apps, in large part because of the express design around the science of reading and having reading pathways that are sequential and explicit and systematic. So many digital games can claim to be educational, though, and this is the tricky part. I think this is where parents really struggle because they recognize that there's a role that iPad can play in their lives. Maybe they need to get dinner on the table. Maybe they just need a minute for themselves, and that is all valid and that is all understandable. I'm a parent as well. I completely get it. But the truth is that anybody can submit an app to the educational, part of the App Store and claim it's educational. And so there's a couple of hallmarks that I think parents can look for to determine whether the quality of the content is really what they're looking for versus, as you mentioned, just something passive and maybe something that doesn't have as much value. And so the hallmark of features that I recommend parents look for are A, that the content has been designed, with or by actual learning experts. B, that content has been designed really with intentionality to support specific and named learning outcomes. C, that includes some element of personalization or scaffolding or support to meet every individual child where they're at. D, that it has been tested with children and ideally even co-created with children, which is rare but really important, and that app has undergone both formative and summative research. And then finally, you can lean on recommendations by people, organizations that you trust. That can include speech language pathologists or your child's teacher or an unbiased third party organization like Common Sense Media.
Yeah, that's good to know. I think those are really good tips for parents and caregivers because it is difficult to differentiate between what's really helping your child versus what's just kind of keeping them quiet, so to speak, right?
Exactly.
I also wanted to jump into kind of some questions around AI. I think it sounds, we're talking about screen time and digital gaming. I think AI is another one of these topics. It's a little bit controversial, especially when it comes to exposing kids, right? So AI is beginning to personalize learning in ways that we didn't imagine a few years ago. Where do you see it having the most positive impact for children, educators, families?
So I think it's exactly in that realm, which is personalization. So I get really excited about AI's ability to help us personalize not just the content itself, which I think is where we're at today, but the entire experience. So let's imagine two 10-year-olds both playing the same educational game. One child is intrinsically motivated. She enjoys experimenting. The other 10-year-old maybe is a little bit lacking in confidence, and he gives up really quickly. So historically, they both get the same experience because they're the same age and they're working on the same skill. AI today allows us to take the learning objective and hold that constant because they're the same age, but maybe adjust the level of the content. That's really where we're at today in terms of personalization. And that's great. That's magical. That's very helpful. But I get excited about AI's ability to change the entire experience because, again, those two 10-year-olds are very, very different. So you can imagine the experience changing in terms of the coaching that the child is getting, the pacing of the content, the types of challenges that they're experiencing, the feedback, even the encouragement that they're hearing in that experience. And that can change for each child based on their temperament and their play preferences. And that, I think, is a fundamentally different product. So I'm incredibly excited about that for kids. For parents, we're just beginning to scratch the surface. And so this month, we're launching a product called Sage, which is an AI-powered companion for parents that really gets to know the parents' needs, the unique learning goals that they have, and then take that information and deeply personalize everything from the chat responses that they're getting through Sage, the play-based resources that we're serving up for the families, and what we call developmental pathways. So in early testing of Sage, we're learning that parents are coming to this product for everything from immediate answers to a question they have about their child's development to getting printables and resources. Maybe they're homeschooling, or maybe they want to give their child some activities to do while they're getting dinner on the table, as well as validation and reassurance. We all have questions. Did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing in that moment? Mm-hmm. And then those easy to use plans to work on specific goals like picky eating or learning how to read.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And having kind of like this trusted hub of information that you can go back to for reference, and it kind of knows you and it learns your preferences. I think that's going to be really important for families.
Exactly, and it just continues to get smarter and smarter and offer even more personalized experiences for families.
And I really like the fact that a doctor, you are backing the content that's on there, right? Because I'm a millennial mom. I use the internet to find answers for whatever, but I don't know if what I'm looking at can be trusted, even in like ChatGPT, right? Like you don't know what they're pulling from, right? So it's nice, this idea that there's this controlled content that is reviewed and managed by someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that a lot. It's a huge topic for us about how do we take the best of what AI can do, but marry that with human wisdom and with rigor and a robust review rubric. And, you brought up the word trust, and that is a huge part of what we think about day in and day out as we're developing Sage.
Oh, definitely. I wonder though, are there any things you feel like the AI companion can't assist with, with a parent or with parenting? Like, is there some limit to it?
Yeah, we definitely have out of bound topics. And so we want to make sure that we are handling topics that we feel we're well suited to, that we have partnered with, trusted organizations to serve up content. And if parents are asking about things that are outside of that, we are making sure that we're clearly communicating that. So right now, Sage is not a tool to diagnose your child with something. It is not a place to go if you have like a serious medical emergency or something that is related to serious mental health issues. Then Sage is recommending that you reach out to an expert in those situations.
Yeah, no, that's great, and that makes a lot of sense. You want to make sure people are getting the information from the right source.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, and that's great because it leads me to the next question about the growing conversation around AI safety, bias, and trust. I want to ask your opinion. What responsibilities do you think developers have when creating AI-powered experiences for children?
Yeah. So when we're talking about kids, I think the most obvious topic at the moment is around AI-powered experiences that relate to, developing inappropriate relationships with AI chatbots. At their very nature, most AI chatting tools are really designed to keep users engaged and to answer and serve up questions, even if they don't have an actual answer or if those answers are wrong. And so, as a result of that, children and adults say that they find talking with these chatbots to be highly flattering. They are easy to talk to, and they're incredibly informative, even if the results are sycophantic and they're based in hallucinations. And so when we're designing for children, the stakes could not be higher. And so we have a responsibility ahead of the policies that are meant to enforce, compliance, to keep kids as safe as possible. So our product is designed for parents. We have kids products. Those do not include chatbots with AI because we think there's just so much more work that needs to be done to make sure that is a safe experience. But again, we are designing a companion for parents called Sage. And so as we just discussed, trust and safety are just foremost in our minds as we're designing this experience. And so we don't just want to make sure that we are complying with, terms of use and privacy rules like that. That's a minimum. That's table stakes. We have to do that. But it is about so much more than that. It is about developing and maintaining trust. So we're doing that in a couple ways. One is, as I mentioned, we're using partnerships with organizations and brands that parents already trust to help build that trust in Sage. And so, we have a partnership with Sesame Workshop. We have a partnership with Tiny Souls for social emotional learning content. So those are just a couple examples of how we're utilizing partnerships and other people's areas of expertise to establish and maintain trust within our product. And then the other way we're doing that is with a really robust review rubric that's under the hood. It's behind the scenes. Parents don't necessarily know it exists, but we have this robust review rubric to ensure that the way Sage is responding is pulling from the latest research. It's science-based, it's not hallucinating, it is citing resources, and that it has the right tone. We don't want to be overly friendly and we don't want to be overly academic as well. So just constantly reviewing the way Sage is performing is an important part of that trust.
Great. And for the people watching, when can they expect to be able to access Sage, or where can they find it?
Yeah, Sage should be out in the world by the end of July. So it's Sage by Begin. You can also search Sage Parenting Companion. And so we're so excited. We have some early testers using it now, so we're getting a ton of feedback, but it should be live any day now.
That's super exciting. I think I'm going to check it out too.
Yeah,
I'll be on the lookout for it.
Yeah.
I have a quick question about Sage. Is there like a specific age range that it's for? Like, is it meant to help young parents with newborns, or is it meant to help parents with teenagers and things like that?
That's a great question. So our sweet spot where our focus is to start at launch is for parents of kids 2 to 6. There's definitely plans to expand the age range, both younger and older. Currently, if you use Sage and you ask questions about older kids, I've got a teenager, for example, it will give a pretty good reply. But the bulk of the content, I think the best experience right now is for parents of kids ages 2 to 6.
Okay, very nice.
Great. So looking ahead about 5 years, what excites you most about the future of AI? Because it sounds like you're right in the middle of child development and AI and what's coming. Also learning and play. What should the industry be careful not to lose as technology continues to evolve and grow?
I am incredibly excited about AI, again, becoming this adaptation engine that fundamentally personalizes the entire experience. So not just the content, as we've talked about, but really all aspects of the experience and how that can impact kids, their parents, teachers, really the entire, circle of care around the child. I'm also really excited about this increased appreciation for the importance of play. This has been, top of mind for me since I was in grad school, and it used to sort of feel like a lonely corner of a child development conference. And now play has become much more mainstream. And I think that's thanks in part to influencers, to, brands and companies that are talking about the importance of play, and ongoing thought leadership, including, this podcast. So I think I'm really excited about that. Related to that, I'm excited about the increasing awareness around the importance of human connections, or what Dr. Isabel Howe refers to as relational intelligence. And, in this increasingly AI-powered world, the importance of humans being able to connect with each other is more important now than ever before. And as we talk to parents through our own focus groups week over week, we hear that from parents. Like, what they really crave is deeper and more meaningful connections with their kids, which of course often means putting down the devices and getting on the floor and having those interactions and really knowing how to play with their kids. And so I'm really excited about all of that. And I think in terms of what I don't want us to lose, one thing I really want to make sure we don't lose is testing and learning from actual kids and families. And with AI, I think designers can tap into curriculum and learning standards in seconds now. And I think it might be really tempting to think, okay, I have everything I need to design this game for kids because I can now see all of the curriculum. I can find, what average 4-year-olds should be learning. And that's at their disposal now within seconds. But there is no replacement for the richness and the nuances and the surprises that you get when you actually interact with and test your products with and design with kids and families. So I really hope we don't lose that.
Yeah, that's really important. And I noticed also that your background, you started at Leapfrog early in your career, and you were kind of instrumental in guiding that whole practice, right? About doing actual user group testing and seeing how families adapt and receive the technology.
Yeah, I've been so blessed in my career. I started at Leapfrog, as you mentioned. That's where I really learned my chops around kit testing, the importance of that, and also co-designing. So we piloted this program where we brought in a group of girls to help us co-design a Disney Brave game. And so these girls, started with us around, with early concept paper testing and stayed with the product as we developed it and continued to come in and test the product and give us really critical, but really important feedback throughout the development process. So that was an incredible experience. And then from there, I moved to Mattel, which is also really known for the research that they do with kids and families, whether that's at their Fisher-Price lab or their play lab in El Segundo. So yeah, fortunately, my entire career has included a lot of getting in front of kids and families, whether that's in the home or in a lab or in preschools. And that is just such an instrumental part of the process and of creating products that have a lasting impact.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. And I think that's another kind of good nugget for our audience to be able to understand is that, when you do look for toys and games, you go back to what you said about who's designing this? Are you co-creating with families? Do they understand what the children are being exposed to? All of these little details that sometimes kind of go unnoticed.
That's
so
right.
Very important. And I'm so glad that you shared that with us.
Of course.
So I'm going to let Toni go ahead and jump in with her rapid fire questions now.
Thank you. So we like to, towards the end of the episode, kind of transition into these rapid fire. They're a little bit lighter. We call them a little bit more fun questions. They are called rapid fire, but of course, elaborate as much as you would like for your answers. First thing we wanted to ask you is, what is your favorite video game or gaming memory?
My favorite gaming memory is watching my two sons sit on the couch in their pajamas, holding a game that I had helped to design. It was a kart racing game And so they're using the controllers, and of course they're steering with their whole bodies and pulling with delight, and nothing can top that memory for me in terms of gaming.
That's very sweet. I love that. Well, yeah, and gosh, so full circle to see a game that you developed in the hands of your own family is amazing.
I had built-in testers. It was great.
Yeah, I love it. What's one tool or technology that you're finding you can't live without these days?
So I have type 1 diabetes. And so for me, having the closed loop between the blood glucose monitor and my insulin pump is a tool and a technology that I quite literally couldn't live without. So I would say that is something I'm tremendously grateful for, and so glad that it exists and people continue to fund research in that area.
Yeah, it has changed so much, even just I feel like in the past 10, 20 years. So much, much better.
Yes, much better indeed.
Goodness, I love it. What's the biggest trend in gaming or AI that excites you the most?
From my perspective, it is when we stop talking about AI as a feature and start talking about AI as an adaptation engine. So I think the winners are going to be the companies, not the companies with the most AI generated assets. They're going to be the companies that make people feel the most safe, seen, and supported.
I like that. Yeah, it's not instead of, it's in addition to. I love it. What's one skill that you think folks who are in the gaming industry will need much more of in the next 3 to 5 years coming up?
It's curiosity. The landscape is changing so quickly, and as you know, remaining curious about families and about child development and about the market and about the products in the market, that is a critical skill for moving forward. And I do consider curiosity to be a skill, because even though it's something we're all born with, we're naturally curious, so many of us experience curiosity kind of being dragged out of us because of the pressure to know everything and to get all of the right answers. And so holding on to the ability to be able to ask great questions and stay hungry for answers is going to be an essential skill moving forward.
I love that. I feel like we've been hearing curiosity more and more these days. So I feel like everyone's on the same page there. I love that.
I think curiosity will save us. Curiosity.
Yes. I love it. I love it. And if you weren't in, gaming and education and development, what would you be doing instead?
I would be doing something in the nutrition or endurance sports space. I'm very passionate about endurance sports, and so I don't know exactly what I would do. I don't know if I'd be coaching. But I would be doing something in that realm.
I love it. Always helping people still, even if I'm in the industry. That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you have a picture of you biking. So it sounds like biking may be a passion of yours.
Yeah, that was a shot from the Ironman that I did in Arizona, which was sort of a life-changing event for me. So yeah, I'm just so passionate about it.
That's great. I love that. Staying active, good for the mind. As an adult, you're playing too. So there you go.
Exactly right. Thank you for noticing that. Play looks different for different people, and it looks different as we age. But for me, that is playtime. If I get to go run on the trails between meetings, or I get in a bike ride on a Sunday morning before all of the family obligations hit, that's my playtime, and that's really important for all of us to hold on to in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We'll have to remember that. And I love your point about staying curious too. That's so important, especially in the age of AI. There's so many benefits that AI brings to the table, but at the same time, our very human personality and characteristics and traits are so important. We crave that connection.
And also to make sure we're never taking the information that is now served up to us so quickly and so easily for granted. Continue to ask questions. Where did that come from? Is that correct? How do I use this information? Who doesn't know this information? How do I increase access to this information? So just continuing to ask questions and being okay not having all of the answers is a really important skill.
I love that. Well, Jody, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you here for this conversation. We really appreciate your perspective on the science behind play. I think that brings such an interesting and powerful and so important dynamic to the gaming conversation as a whole. So really appreciate having you here. And as AI continues to transform how children learn and interact with the digital experiences, your work reminds us that great innovation starts with understanding the peoples that fund the whole thing, right? The people that are behind it, the people that are receiving it, the children that are exposed to it. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Jody. And just really quick for our audience, if you enjoyed this episode, you can find Game Changers, The Future of Play on Spotify, YouTube, or on Apple Podcast, or on our website, secretaqs.ai. We'll also share some links to the Sage Parent Companion and some of the things Jody talked about today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
that was
Jody.
really fun. I appreciate it.